Maschine Masters family, my name is MGTheFuture. Today I'll be bringing you guys another exclusive tutorial. Today I'll be covering DJ Khaled's new top Billboard hit, I'm the One, featuring Lil Wayne, Justin Bieber, so on and so forth. I believe this track was produced by Nick Nack, who also produced some other joints in the same vein. Loyal with Chris Brown is one of the ones that stand out to me. This particular track has a formula that fits with the pop chords or the golden chord ratio, and I found it quite interesting that anytime someone does a #1 song that crosses over, they choose to use these chords, and it would be some kind of conspiracy to think that maybe those are the only chords that matter and or exist when it comes to radio. But this video is not about that conspiracy, but I'll point out how I come across that and show you guys how to analyze it and what I got out of it, especially on first listen, and how I flipped it towards the end of the video. So first things first, let's hear what I am talking about. This is the original pitched up. You can check it out on YouTube and Tidal and all of that if you want to hear the full version. So first things first, you're going to notice right away it's a bass driven track. There's a kick in there, but you don't hear it very much. It comes in on a hook, similar to my previous tutorial where I was describing the Kendrick Lamar song, how a kick comes in to bring energy. This track does the same exact thing, except for the bass is a little bit more forward. But on first listen, when I first heard it and really paid it a lot of attention, I noticed that it was bass driven. There wasn't any chords. There's a lot of auto panning, especially in the vocal elements. There's pitched up vocals. I don't know if that's a sample from another song or if that's Justin Bieber himself being sped up, but it's definitely pitched up and sped up, and it doesn't change very much. It's a 2-bar loop, as I pointed out on the last joint as well. So everything's straightforward. So the first thing I went ahead and did was isolate the bass, because of course we could find the key from the bass. So that's just a filter. Make sure if you're using Ableton Live, you use the steepest filter. It's this icon here with the extra under it. So you can hear that particular bass is layered with a sub, like literally a sub. I don't think that tone comes from the bass patch itself. It's like a high-pitched 808 or sine wave under the square patch that dominates the stereo. And whoever engineered this did a hell of a job, because I couldn't get mine to sound exactly like that, but for all intents and purposes, it did the trick. So I did that, and I ran it through the keys that it generated, and we got G, E, C, D, which puts us in G major. And the next thing I did was kind of find out what progression it was. So I went to my favorite website, The Circle of Fifths by Rand Scullard, set it to major, G major. And we can see, because it's G, E, C, D, we got 1, 6, 4, 5. Those particular chords, the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6 minor under a major scale, you'll see them in every combination under the rainbow in almost every #1 song that reaches Billboard. The most common variant of that is 6, 4, 1, 5. So minor 6, major 4, major 1, major 5. This one, of course, switched it up a little bit. It rearranged the order of those particular notes for the bass line and became major 1, minor 6, major 4, major 5. If you wanted to switch that up, remember you could do chord substitution. So instead of starting on the 1, you could start on the E. So instead of G, start with E. So you start with the 6, and so on and so forth, because these red keys here are relative to the blue keys here. So if they're in the same pie slice, like G is in the same middle sector as E is in its middle sector of blue, you could switch those out and make a totally different progression as well. Or if you don't want it to be a 2-bar loop that's just repetitive, you can substitute the chords out, or in this case, the root notes out. So once I found that particular information out, I went ahead and did my own version. I tried to find the patch that they used. What I came up with personally was Sylenth in its default library. under patch 93, BS bass, point bass. So this patch itself is called point bass. You could probably use like an organ bass from Serum. You could layer it up with a higher octave of an 808 and mesh them together. And that's what this sounds like. Same thing with a drum pattern. I layered the kicks on top of the hits of the bass. The hi-hats are straight 16s. There's a clap or a snap, and there's a white noise effect to bring it all together. And the track literally repeats this part for 4 times before it goes into a hook where it's half hi-hats, half without hi-hats. And that's pretty much it. It reminds me of that other artist DJ Khaled has, where he's singing, she was telling me this, she was telling me that. It's almost the same exact bass line. And also, of course, when you hear something like that, you automatically think of DJ Mustard or Los Angeles within respect and regards to that style and sound. So it's straightforward. And I notice when people who are not DJ Mustard make those type of tracks, like for Iggy Azalea or Jadena, you'll notice that they'll pick the popular chords as root notes, whereas DJ Mustard, he'll take a minor fourth or minor chord and he'll use all the notes within that chord as the bass notes. So it's really different. It's a urban and a popular version of that bass line technique. Another thing that I end up doing is what I really wanted to highlight, which stood out in this track, is that because it's bass driven, the only thing that's carrying harmony besides Justin Bieber singing is the voices in the background. And there's like this really cool filter going on. It sounds like a lead instrument, but it might not be. But it sounds like a lead. So it's a bass, some high pitched vocals. And I wanted to try my own out since I didn't have the original sample from this track that they're using. I ended up going with Brandy, and I have no idea why I picked Brandy's acapella out of all the acapellas in the universe, but it was just cool to try it out. So here's my version of it without the vocals. And let me show you one more thing that I did before I play this. Well, let me play it first and then I'll break down what I did, why it will sound different. Cool. So first things first, before I break down the vocals, what I had to do is find out what key Brandy was singing in, and I wanted to determine whether or not it was already in G. It wasn't, it was in D. Actually, it's in a minor. It's in a relative minor of D major, which in this case, the relative minor is B minor. So her song, I Want to Be Down, originally is in B minor. So I notated it as D major, and I wanted to pitch it and change it, make it a little bit more happier. So I put it under B major. And then to get this high pitch vocal sound, from the transpose position to get it into B major, I put it up 12 steps. So it's a whole octave up. So it's plus 14 steps, but it's plus 12 from the point that I'm using the original acapella. So it's a whole octave up. And what I'm doing to that particular sound is that I'm filtering it out high and low. I'm putting a trash plugin, which is just a distortion. Ableton, of course, comes with erosion, which will do the job, and overdrive. Redux will do it as well. I have the SP303 compressor, and to make it pan back and forth, I have a tremolo performing as an auto pan. And it's just being sent to a generic reverb and delay. And that's the meat and potatoes of that particular track. And of course, there's a little lead sound that I added as well from Sylenth, which is kind of following the scale of B major. And now I'll play it with her actual voice in it as if it were that track or that hook. So that's that. This was a pretty cool exercise for me to do, and I hope, or my goal was to help you guys absorb some of the reverse engineering techniques that I employ in order to help you transition and to build your own music. Of course, you don't want to go out and just use these particular chords just because, or you don't want to go out and just remake existing music just because. But one thing that stood out to me that someone taught me a long time ago, in terms of the philosophy or dilemma in terms of learning how to make beats and, you know, having your idols like Timbaland or the Neptunes and making beats like them, is that they said to me, when you learn how to play guitar or piano, or if you join band in school, how do you learn how to play that music, or how do you learn that instrument? And I said, by practicing and playing those instruments. And then he got very specific. He says, but whose music are you playing when you're learning those instruments? And then I had that aha moment. It was like, whoever's music are in those books, which is usually a lot of classical music composed by people from 50, 100, many years ago, we're learning our instruments by playing their music, you know, and then we go to perform and tour, and, you know, your schools go to all these places to play someone else's music. And you raise up in chairs and you're judged on how good or proficient you are based on how you're playing someone else's music. So that kind of took the stigma away from me, from employing that same tactic in learning hip hop or R&B production, and of course learning our instrument, which is the computer in a lot of our cases. So don't ever feel no kind of way when you don't have to, because once you understand all these techniques and you notice these hit records are fairly simple to make, and it's usually a flick of the wrist of songwriting and mixing and mastering, you should be full steam ahead making as many concepts and ideas as possible. And of course, employing these techniques of finding the key from the bass line, then finding out what the chord progression is. You should be able to do some new remixes. You should be able to reach out to some of your favorite artists on SoundCloud and what have you, and request from them. Because a lot of people are funny about selling beats and buying beats from strangers. Because I see a lot of people hustling emails and, you know, getting people to join your list and buy your beat tape and buying beats. And it's not that era anymore. So in place of that particular hustle, what I would employ you guys to do who are coming up is to reach out to artists you're very fond of on Facebook and stuff, you know, all these sites that promote these videos from unknown or independent artists, and ask them to do remixes. Like, say, hey, I don't want to sell you nothing, but it would be cool if I could remix that particular song of yours and put my own touch on it. And you get their acapella, line it up, set the BPM, get the key of the hook, and employ these same techniques to make a whole different track for them. And then of course you can transpose it and pitch it and put it in a different key that you're comfortable with, so on and so forth. I don't want to talk you guys' heads up, but I appreciate you guys tuning in, checking me out. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, definitely leave them in the box below. If you're not a subscriber, definitely subscribe. It would help me greatly if you guys would like and share this video on social media as well. That's always dope. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, I'm MG the Future, and this is the Maschine Masters.